Well, hey there, kiddos. Sorry that I am missing you again, but this way you're not going to lose anything. The good news about today is that it is all completely review. We're going to write equations of lines, which you did in Algebra 1. Nothing about this is any different than what we did in Algebra 1. It's just going to be a review, so I'm going to go through it pretty quick. If for some reason you get behind, I go too fast or whatever, copy the notes, what you missed from either the person beside you, go back and get them, or you can go back and watch this video. I'll post it on the website. You can go watch it again when you get home this evening and fill in what you missed. So, number one, we have a graph of a line, and we're supposed to fill in this box with what's important. So I have to find M, which if you'll remember is slope, B, which is the y-intercept, and then I have to write the equation in slope-intercept form. I always start with the y-intercept because it's real easy to find. It's right here where it crosses the y-axis, and this is counting by 2's, and so it looks like that's at -6. And then for my slope, what I show when I do this in Algebra 1 is I show my kids, they find their y-intercept, and then we're going to find another pretty point, which is a point that crosses right where two integers meet. Not in the middle over here, so I'll have a half or whatever, but right where two integers meet. And then I just draw a right triangle, and I'm going to count my rise over my run. This is increasing. It's an increasing line, which means I'm going to have positive slope. My rise is up to 4 because these count by 2, so my rise is +4. My run is +2, and so when I write this as a rise over run, I have 4/2, which is the same thing as 2/1 or just 2. So my equation in slope-intercept form, remember slope-intercept form looks like this: y equals mx plus b. Y and x are variables. M is the slope, b is the y-intercept. So it becomes y equals 2x minus 6. That's the equation of that line. So let's do another one. Now I have a decreasing line. I can tell because this line goes, it points down, it goes down and gets smaller. The numbers get smaller as I go from left to right. So I have a decreasing slope, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with my y-intercept. This graph counts by 1's. So right here my y-intercept is at 2. Then I'm going to find another pretty point. Looks like there's one right here. I'm going to draw my right triangle, and this time because I'm decreasing, I know I need a negative slope. So I went down 2 and to the right 1, 2, 3. So my slope becomes -2/3 from the rise over the run. So my equation in slope-intercept form is -2/3 x plus 2. So now we have a horizontal line and a vertical line, and I hope that you remember this from Algebra 1, but if you don't, I'm going to hopefully refresh your memory. In Algebra 1, you should have seen this acronym, HOI and VUX. HOI means you have a horizontal line with 0 slope, and the equation is y equals. So this means horizontal, 0 slope, and the equation is y equals. VUX means you have a vertical line with undefined slope, and the equation is x equals. And so whenever I go and I look at a line, if it's horizontal or it's vertical, I just remember my HOI and my VUX so I know how to write the equation. Well, this one is horizontal, and so I'm going to use the HOI part of my acronym. I still have to write the slope and the y-intercept. Well, the y-intercept is right here, which looks like it's at -4. And then the slope, because it's a horizontal line, according to my acronym, has 0 slope. So the slope is 0 because there is no rise. It has a rise of 0, and so I end up with 0 over something, and that, so it makes it 0. My equation is going to be y equals, and y equals whatever I found at the y-intercept, which happens to be -4. And that's because no matter at which point I am on the line, y is always -4. Now number 4 is a vertical line. So I go to the VUX part. I do not have a y-intercept. So since this is vertical, it doesn't have a y-intercept because it never crosses the y-axis. So this does not have a y-intercept. You can't say 0 because that means that it would cross the y-axis right here. It has none. According to my acronym, my vertical line has undefined slope. So my slope is undefined. This is why the acronym is so important, because I can't write an equation from here. I can't plug in this slope or this y-intercept and make an equation. I just have to know that it's x equals. So I go over here and I see it crosses the x-axis at 3, which makes my equation x equals 3. So let's talk about a couple more examples here. Now we're not only going to write these equations in slope-intercept form, we're going to write them in something called standard form, which you'll probably also remember from Algebra 1, but we're going to have to review it because it has some special rules. So we're going to start the same way. We're going to find the slope, we're going to find the y-intercept, and then we're going to write it in slope-intercept form, then we'll go from slope to standard. The y-intercept of this graph is at -2, and the slope looks like I go up 2, because these are all counting by 2's, and then over 2, 4, 6, 8. So my slope becomes 2 over 8, which simplifies to 1/4. So my equation in slope-intercept form is 1/4 x minus 2. Now to go to standard form, and I'm going to just write up here so that we'll know, you can fit this in on your paper if you need to. Standard form looks like this. It's ax plus by equals c. And so it's, instead of being the y all by itself, I have x and y together on the same side of the equal sign. Special things that you have to know, though, is that a and b have to be greater than 0, which means that they have to be whole numbers, okay? They have to be greater than 0. They can't be 0.5 or 0.3 or any sort of a fraction. They have to be whole numbers, and then a cannot be negative. So when you do this, these two numbers have to be whole numbers, and this first number cannot be a negative. If any of those are the case, it's not in standard form and we have to fix it. So we're going to go from there. We're going to put this in standard form, which means I just need to get my x and my y together on the same side, step 1. If I want this 1/4 x over here with the y, I do that by subtracting 1/4 x from both sides. And I like to keep my x in the front and then my y, but it doesn't really matter. So if I subtracted 1/4 x, that becomes negative 1/4 x plus y equals -2. Well, I have just broken both rules that I just gave you, because now not only do I have a fraction here, I have a negative. So I've got to get rid of them. So in order to get rid of that, I'm going to clear this fraction out. To clear out my fraction, I can just multiply by everything by the denominator. But I also want to get rid of this negative. So I'm going to multiply by the denominator, which is 4, and I'm going to make it negative to get rid of this negative and this 4 at the same time. But I also have to multiply this -4 times the y and the -2. I can't forget to distribute to everything. So this just becomes 1x. But when I do -4 times y, it becomes -4y. And when I do -4 times -2, it becomes +8. So in standard form, this is my equation. It is x minus 4y equals 8. This is the same equation as this. It's just written in a different format. So let's talk about number 7 here. They ask us to write an equation that represents the line that passes through those 2 points, 0, 2, and 2, 6. They want it in slope-intercept forms to make it easy for us. And then they said graph the line. You could graph it first using just the 2 points. In the absence of a ruler, I'm not going to do that. You could, having a ruler or your ID to lay down on the flat surface and draw it straight through the 2 points will be okay, but I don't have a ruler sitting here on my little smart thing, so I'm just going to find the slope using my 2 points. So the first thing, I'm going to find my slope using my formula that I learned back in Algebra 1, which is the difference in the y's over the difference in the x's. So I'm going to do my y values, which is 6 minus 2, because y here is 6, y here is 2, over the difference in my x values, and I'm going backwards. I'm going to do 2 minus 0, but it doesn't matter. I could have done 0 minus 2 and then 2 minus 6. As long as you go in the same order with your points, it's okay. So I'm going to do 2, that's my x value, minus 0, my other x value, and I'll simplify. 6 minus 2 is 4, 2 minus 0 is 2, and that simplified is 2. So I have my slope. I also happen to have my y-intercept. They just didn't say this is the y-intercept. This point 0, 2 is right here, and it's on the y-axis. That's going to be your y-intercept. So my y-intercept is 2. So my slope-intercept form of my equation is 2x plus 2. So to graph it, I've already got the 2 y-intercept graphed. I'm going to have to use my rise over my run to find another point. So I'm going to go up 2 and over 1, up 2 and over 1. I can even go backwards. I can go down 2 and left 1. It's the same thing. down 2, and left 1. And then I can connect those points, and that's what your line should look like. So you have 2 more examples. Oh, I lied. There are 3 more examples. Number 8 wants the equation of the line that passes through these 2 points, and they want it in standard form. Well, step number 1, we're going to have to find the slope. Just like we did with the last problem, we're going to subtract the y's and subtract the x's. So the change in y is going to do -7 minus 1 over change in x is -2 minus -2, which is -2 plus 2. And so when I do this problem, I get -8 over 0. Well, this is undefined. If you try to divide by 0 on your calculator, it's going to tell you there's an error because we cannot take something and divide it into nothing. Something else that you should notice is if you look at your 2 points here, you should see that your 2 points have exactly the same x value. Because of that, it tells me that it's a vertical line. So it meets this part of our acronym a minute ago, so I know the equation has to be x equals. Well, according to my 2 points, x equals -2. There is no more other form. That is the form. It's x equals -2. So number 9, equation of the line that passes through these 2 points. Again, we're going to find our slope. So I have 4 minus 4, and then I have -5 minus 3. Well, 4 minus 4 is 0. -5 minus 3 is -8. Well, that just equals 0 because I can take nothing and split it into 8 parts. It's still nothing. Well, since this has a slope of 0, it meets this part of the acronym we talked about a minute ago, which means it's a horizontal line, and the equation is y equals. If you look at your points, they both have a y value that's identical, so the equation is y equals 4. So last one, video store is having a sale on a certain kind of movie. At the end of the first day, the store had 250 copies. At the end of the 4th day, there were 130. Write an equation in slope-intercept form that models the sale of this movie when D is days and M is movies. So I'm going to make a table. And for now, I'm going to use D is my days, which is then where I usually put my X, and M is my movies, which is where I usually put my Y, and I'm going to fill in what I know. Okay, at the end of day 1, there were 250 copies. At the end of day 4, there were 130 copies. And so to find slope, it's just the change in the y over the change in the x. So I find my change from here to here, which happens to be 120, and it's getting smaller, so it's a -120. So my numbers are decreasing. And then my change from here to here is +3 because those got bigger. So my slope is -120 over 3. And when I simplify that, I get that my slope is -40. So I know my slope. What I don't know is how many movies there were on day 0, which is going to be my y-intercept. There's 2 ways to do this. I can use my table and the information I know about it changing and get there, or I can use my format, which is y equals mx plus b, and we're going to plug in what we do know. I happen to know that my slope is -40. I also, over here in my table, have x values and y values that I can plug into this equation. This x value is 1, so I'm going to plug in a 1 for x. That y value that matches it is 250. And if I use what I know about solving equations, I can find out what b is pretty easy. This is just going to equal -40. So I have 250 equals -40 plus b, and to get b by itself, I'm going to add 40 to both sides. When I add 40 to both sides, I get 290 equals b. So now I have an m and a b. My equation in slope-intercept form, and I'm going to use my d and my m now, plug them in. M is my y value, so movies is equal to -40 times the number of days plus 290. That is the equation that models that situation. So that's writing equations of lines. Nothing should have been new. You now have practice in your packet for you to work on. I will see you guys tomorrow, and I will be checking homework, so make sure you have it.